What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. I am your host, Sonny Von Cleveland. Today, we are talking about who am I, right? A great quote that I've read is, I am who I choose to become. And that is so true. How do we know? How do we come to know ourselves in terms of our personalities and, more importantly, our potential, right? So many of us spend the majority of our lives putting on masks and trying to appeal to and appease our teachers, our parents, our siblings, our friends in school, that we tend to lose who we are. And today we're going to talk about ways you can peel back those masks to find out and identify who you really are on the inside and live a life knowing who you are with self-identity. This is the Daily Mastermind. Back and joining me, as always, the beautiful Claire, CEO and founder of iTopia Coaching. Hi, baby.
Hey, you.
She is down at the pool today. We actually are kind of babysitting and nurturing a bird back to life a little bit. I was just coming home earlier, and as I'm walking up the stairs coming into our house, a bird comes flying out of nowhere, smacks into the wall, drops down, and starts shaking in front of me. So I put the dog in the house and I grabbed the bird up. I took it down by the pool, and Claire immediately jumps on and starts researching things. And we found it can take like 2 to 3 hours to for a bird to get itself and the bearings back together. So we kind of put it off underneath a bush in the shade where it's safe from predators. And we're hoping that he'll make a fast, full recovery and fly off here shortly. But we're keeping
ideally
close
you put a bird in a box and bring it home, but we got 4 predators at home, so we can't do that. So keeping an eye on the little bird. And it's a beautiful, I think, like a little sparrow or something. It's got yellow on it. It's really pretty and so forth. So I'm keeping an eye on it. Not that I'm going to know what to do with it, but
hey, we're just hoping that it shakes it off and flies away. It seems to be getting its bearings together. It seems to be collecting itself a little bit more. When I removed it a second time, it seems to be putting itself together. So today we're talking about identity and who I am. And I know that you are pretty well versed in this topic, babe. So I'm very interested to have this discussion with you. My first point of discussion that I want to talk about on this is how we lose our true selves and what that looks like, right? Like as children, again, we tend to modify our behavior and our personalities to appease our parents and our teachers and our friends at school. And what do you think the long-term effects of that type of psychological moving of your personality is?
Well, I think the long-term effects are we end up not knowing who we are from pretty much from the get-go because of social conditioning. Now, to a degree, we need social conditioning. We need to be told what's right and wrong and so forth. Absolutely. But if you're told from birth that you are of a certain religion, for example, if you're told from birth what your gender identity is, which most of us have been told and so forth, you're told from birth who you are. So now imagine fast forward up until your teenage years, your adult years, you're going into college where you're told that you're really smart in mathematics, for example, or you're really good at this. And then you go and pursue a job because you're told that you're really good in a certain subject. You end up chasing dreams and goals that are not necessarily yours. And so you end up forming an identity that's not necessarily who you really are. And then so the long-term effects are, 85% of people, if we just look at jobs in particular, 85% of people hate their jobs.
Facts.
Well, that's
most people are in it. Most people are in jobs out of necessity, right? Or because they went to school for a certain education and then felt obligated to pursue that goal or that education and are in a job that they hate and a job that makes them miserable.
And unfortunately, what we do in society is that we equate our self-worth with our net worth, right?
Ooh, right.
That's what happens.
Our bank account determines how worthy we are in life.
And then, so
Yeah.
that's how we form our identity. So if I look back at myself in corporate life, I quit corporate life, a 6-figure job, but I remember not knowing who I was, because who am I without that sexy director's title? Who am I without this big team of staff working for me? Who am I without the 6-figure salary? Who am I? Because my identity was wrapped up in what I did for a living. And actually, that's not exclusive to me. I think I know for a fact a lot of people did this. I remember interviewing the retired chief of police in New Orleans last year for my podcast, and he said that he was pretty hot shit. He had had this illustrious career in the police industry and had done undercover and become the chief of police, and then he retires. He had gone from, he could walk into any restaurant in New Orleans and people would find a table for him, people would want to talk to him and so forth. As soon as he retires, he can't even get a reservation in Chick-fil-A. He said, like, nobody cares because you are
And,
not your job, you
and
know?
that, I think we see that a lot, right? Like we see that with even our buddy Joe Torres and our guy Carl here that co-hosts with us sometimes. Like after you have committed so many years of your life to a career or a profession, it kind of becomes who you are.
Yeah.
And you tend to lose focus that that's not really who you are. That was a job or a path that you took to try to get somewhere or achieve a goal. And for people that are in professions like that, I think they have a better shot than somebody who's stuck in an office, right? Or in a cubicle or at a desk, because that I think is soul destroying. I think you sit and stare at four walls in a cubicle for so long in your life, you probably don't have a clue who you are, what you want to do in life. You're in autopilot mode, right? Like kind of like a drone. And so
I would
you
argue that I would argue that I think that we need to stop defining who we are by what we do, because we are not what we do. Again, I'm going to go back to me. I was a model for 5 years and then I became old and I can't be a model anymore. So what are you? You're not what you do. I'm not a model anymore, right? I quit corporate life. I am not the director anymore, and so forth. You are not what you do. So, and I've talked to, as I say, the guy that was the retired chief of police. I've talked to former FBI hostage negotiators who now they're not doing that anymore. They don't know who their identity is. And we've all said that we should stop asking people that we meet, what do you do? Because what does it matter?
right.
What
What
does
you
it
do
matter
should
what
not
you do?
have any bearing on who a person is or a person's personality.
And none of the things that we do permanently defines who we are as a person. So now I've gotten to the point, the only thing that I can be concrete, solid about who I am is that I'm a good person. That's
Facts.
the only thing that's never going to change. That's the only true thing that is a part of my identity that's never going anywhere. I'm the girl that you're going to phone at 3 a.m. when the shit comes down, and I'm going to come and get you, no questions asked. I can be solid in that because that's never going to change. What I do outside of that can change. And so, therefore, that
Right.
is not who I am. Does that
So
make sense?
it absolutely makes sense. So then how do we give some tools here for people that are stuck? So people that may not know who they are right now, people who are watching, you may ask yourself, well, who am I? I know who I am. Or you may say, I don't know who I am. I have no idea. How do we help re-hardwire that? How do we reverse engineer the years and years of layers that we have put on ourselves to break away the masks, to get down to who we actually are and find out? Because a lot of people don't have any idea who they are. And you may find something completely new about yourself when you come to that realization.
So, I would first off get my good old fashioned pen and paper and write down everything that you think that you are. Write it all down. And then next to everything that you write down that you think you are, write down who gave you that title.
Right.
Is it somebody else's version of your identity or is it your own?
Ooh,
You
that's a
know?
good
Let,
exercise.
just write it all down. I'm Canadian, I'm British, I'm American, I'm this, I'm whatever. I'm Catholic, I'm Jewish, I'm Muslim, whatever it is. Okay, who told you you're that? Did you choose that or did someone tell you that and then you decided to take that on? Write
Ooh,
that down. And then when you find out that a lot of it is going to be labels from external things, then you strip away, well, who am I if I take all of that away? Who do I think I am if I don't regard anybody else's opinion of who I am?
God, and see, that's such a tough one to answer too, because I mean, I'm kind of going through these right now. I'm kind of going through this, and we're kind of learning and growing as we go, right? Like, I have a
Absolutely.
pretty good grasp of who I am and what I want to do with my life, and I'm speaking specifically about me. And I had what I thought that I was as a musician, as a YouTuber, as a gamer. I had that idea. You know what I mean? And then you break it down to your actions do speak a lot louder than your words. Find out, write down your daily things that you do, your physical stuff. What do you put your time into? What is it that you spend your time doing? And then go back and analyze that after a week. What did you spend the majority of your week doing? Because that's probably what you're passionate about, or that's probably what you really want to do in life. The things that you are willing to put in your time and effort to do for no return, is what you're passionate about, right?
But equally, I would say don't pigeonhole yourself, because again, you are not what you do. At its core, you're not what you do. Does that
Sure.
make sense? Or
Right.
not?
I mean, we can do a myriad of things if we're talking about business or we're talking about success, but I'm talking about pursuing your dream,
Yeah.
chasing your passion. That's who you are. Your passion is who you are, unless I'm mistaken. But I think
Yeah.
your passion is who you are. Like me, I'm a musician. I love music. I love playing music. I love making music. I love listening to music. Although I've come to find in the last year of my life, I barely pick up my guitar. I barely write music. I barely even attempt music. I barely listen to music. It's just kind of left. And I don't know if that was a mask that I had on to
Or you
cope, because
continue.
going back to my childhood, I have put that the music has been there my whole life. I used it as an escape from the molestation. I used it as an escape from incarceration. And so I don't know if the music was a mask that I had on, or was that really what I'm passionate about? Because you have seen my face when music comes on. I light up. It gives me energy. I'm full. It's like, ooh, ah. But that could just be a habit, right? Muscle memory. I could just be putting a mask on. What do
Or
you
you,
think about that?
but your passions can evolve. It could be, it doesn't mean that you have to give up music, but maybe your passions are evolving to something else that you don't know what that is right now, right?
Sure.
But you are not music, is what I'm trying
Facts.
to get at. Is that
Facts.
we are not
Facts.
what we do. We are what how do I say this? We are what we are innately 24 hours a day. That's who we are.
Right.
Does that make
We
sense?
are we are the emotion that we embrace, right? Like if you're an angry person, that's who you are. If you embrace
Exactly.
anger all the time, if you're always pissed off, if you're always fighting or arguing with somebody, that's who you are. You're an angry person. You are
Exactly.
that emotion. Is that a safe
Exactly.
assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I would say we need to get rid of all the on ourselves, whether it's our religion, our identity, our politics, or whatever it is. Well, why do we believe these things? Is it because other people have told us to believe these things and we're just going along to get along and so forth? Most people are in autopilot mode and they just want to be accepted by society, so they'll go where everybody tells them to do. I would say we're none of those things. We're not our politics. We're not our
Facts.
we're not our jobs. We are uh, who we profess to be day in and day out. Like I say, my big thing is at my core, I'm a good human being with a really big heart. That's my identity. I am not going to latch on to any other identity as permanent, because it's not. They can all be swayed, and so forth. So,
Yeah, and it can be a very daunting task to try to overcome this stuff. I just got sidetracked by this comment. Shauna Jones says, I played yesterday's episode for my therapist and he loves you guys. He also wants to know the title of Claire's book. Uh-oh.
oh,
Uh-oh. Lessons of a Corporate Soldier.
no, Lessons from a Corporate Soldier, A Journey from Burnout to Recovery. It's not published yet, Shauna. I need to uh, I'll be honest with you, it's been cooking in a drawer for 2 years because uh, I got feedback from two people. So one was an editor who said that this book is amazing and it can be a bit academic, I think the words were, but then overall it's an amazing book and you need to put it out. And then another editor said you need to put more details of your childhood and stuff, and I don't want to do that. And so
Right.
therefore the book has been cooking for 2 years.
until I
Sonny
read it.
Von Cleveland is the first person who read that last week, and he binged it and said, "You need to publish this."
Yeah,
So
such a good book. Such a
watch the
good book.
space.
Such a
Watch the
good book.
space.
But we're definitely getting the wheels on that, and you guys will all be the first to know when we get that book published, and we are ready to put it out for purchase. You guys will all be the first to know. But going back to your book, there, do you think that our experience kind of has a defining factor in who we are? Can we? Is there a way to erase everything we've picked up along the way to try to go back to who we were innately, or is it experiential happenings throughout life are permanently going to change who you are because who you are is not who you were, right?
I think we can take off of the labels that we were given. So, for example, I was born and raised a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic now, and I gave that up when I was, I don't know, 12, something like that. I'm not against Catholics, but it just doesn't work for me. I took that label off of myself as a kid. I
Sure.
was raised by a conservative person, and I was also raised by a liberal, and I chose to be a tree hugging hippie liberal. That's who I am. However, I don't attach my identity to it, because if the liberals had some crazy views that I don't believe in, well, I'll change my view tomorrow. You see what I mean? It's just
Right. We're not
I'm not
stuck in any way.
I'm not stuck in any sort of
Right.
labels. And equally, I don't want someone to see me and go, "Oh, there's Claire. She's a tree hugging hippie liberal," because that's not who I am. Just like I'm
Right.
not going to look at someone and go, "Ooh, they're a conservative." That's not
Right.
innately who they are.
And
You
so
know?
here's another great lesson for you guys to take away from this video is that you can change. One of the most irritating things I've ever heard in my life people say, and it's such a subjective or subjugating personality tactic, is that leopards can't change their spots. That to me, it's an ignorant sentence first and foremost, because sure, an actual leopard cannot change its spots. We're not leopards. Human
No.
beings are not leopards. Anybody has the ability to change at any moment in their life. At any moment in time, you could have lived 65 years and been a piece of shit your whole life, and turn around in 65 and say, you know what? It's time to do something different. And you can live the rest of your life doing something good. And you can make a
Absolutely.
significant impact in the world at 65, even after a life full of shit. You can still do something good because it's never too late to turn around and change. Agreed?
1,000,000%. We are not stuck. We are not. I believe personally that we are born from love, and that we came to Earth School here to create whatever our passion is from love, to provide goodness to this world, to help one another, and so forth, and maybe be creative and inspired to other people. That's personally what I think we came here for. I don't think we came here to put all of these masks on and be told how to think and what to study, and then collect lots of money, buy shit, and die. I personally think that that's
Right.
a crazy notion. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I think, like I say, life is a privilege, and so we have a chance to change our life at any moment. And
At any moment. And I think that we also habitualize self-deprecating language, right? We use a lot of self-deprecating language in our everyday interactions with people, as far as, once a cheater, always a cheater. Well, if that was the case, 99% of the world's cheaters, because the
and I
very people that say it, like, most people cheated at some point, at something, at somewhere in your life, and you're not defined by that action, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and I would also say as well that this is what a lot of people end up doing, is they say they do a lot of work on themselves and improve themselves, but they assume that everybody else stayed the same. That's not true.
right.
Know that just because we change doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't change, which is why I don't believe in holding on to the past,
Right.
because for all I know, people who I perceive who have wronged me, maybe are not doing that now. Maybe they're building schools in Africa. I don't know. So there's no point in hanging on to, hey, you did this to me. It sucked at the time, but maybe you're doing great things with your life now. Maybe you're not, but it's not of my concern.
And that mentality right there is exactly why I have been able to get over so much in my life. I'm able to get past so many things, and it to the point where it can come off looking like I have a lack of boundaries. Because if somebody does something wrong to me, a week later I'm over it. I don't forgot about it. I dare to say a day later I'm over it and I forgot about it. I don't know if they have or not, but if you pass the clock a year, I automatically assume, which an assumption is probably a bad thing, but I assume that everybody has grown and learned and experienced something in their life. So a year later, somebody that did something horrible to me a year ago, I still give them an opportunity to come and say hi or say something because maybe you've changed. Because I would want the same thing for myself. If I've done something to somebody that was a dick move, a year later, I'd like you to think that I've changed or that I've learned and I've matured and I've experienced and I've grown, and that you would give somebody a shot to come back, because inherently that's what life is about, right? You got to give everybody a chance.
Absolutely. I personally think that everybody does the best they can at their own level of consciousness, or to put that in simpler terms, everybody's doing what they can with the tools that they've got in their own toolbox.
Right. And I don't think that the majority of people wake up in the morning and saying, you know what, I'm going to ruin somebody's life today.
No.
You know what I mean? I think it's a lack of emotional intelligence that kind of leads people down that path in the moment, because people lack those emotional intelligence. We
Yeah.
are absolutely constantly evolving who we are.
And that doesn't mean that you need to invite people back into your
Right.
life. So there's
Right.
people in my life I'm not going to invite back into my life, but I wish them love and light, and maybe they've evolved to be great people. And I'm able to say, thank you for making me who I am now, but I don't need to welcome you back in my life. If I see you in the street, hey, how's it going? Wish you love and light, but I don't. That's where my boundaries come in.
I don't hold ill will against anybody, to be honest. And there, I mean, I have people that for all intents and purposes, you should hold a grudge against. But what's the point?
Well, you
Because-
rob yourself of your life,
Right, because that's not who we are as people. Again, we are born for the sake of each other. Teach or tolerate. And I think at the end of the day, that's who we are. We are either teachers or tolerators. And if you're not, then something is off in your life. There's a fundamental thing that's off in your life, and you got to do some soul searching. You got to do some soul work. You got to do some self work, some self actualization, until you get to the point where you're either tolerant or you have a desire to teach. Right? One of the most profound things that I've ever read was that statement. We are born for the sake of each other. Teach or tolerate. And I think it's 100%. I think at the end of the day, that's who we are. Who I am is a teacher. I'm here to teach. I have been sent on this planet to endure. We had a great talk about this yesterday, because some things just seem so savagely unfair. Like the 9-year-old kid that grows up in a cage, beaten and abused his whole life, and gets to know nothing except pain and misery. And people say, well, why would God let that happen? God doesn't let those things happen. That's not God's call. That's unless you follow that kind of path and you believe that God, there's one person up there. It's like, yeah, I will make everything happen. That's not the case. Everybody comes here for a purpose, and to the Buddhist philosophy, some people choose. We choose what path we're going to walk because we have lessons to learn. And so the 9-year-old who grows up in this cage is savage, brutal, has a purpose. That their existence is for the people that see that or that hear it and witness it, right? Because even the toughest gangster, the most cold-hearted, drug-dealing, murdering gangbanger could look at that and would weep, would feel something in their soul like, God.
Which is empathy.
Right. And that, everything has a purpose, and that's who we are. We are here to live out our purpose, to define it, find it, define it, and live it.
I personally believe that we're here to rise one another up, because I don't know of anybody who's gone through life skating through it with nothing bad happening to them. And I believe that we can use those challenging experiences to share our stories with other people, to make other people not feel so alone and rise them up. And that personally is my mission in life. I won't say that that's my career or anything like that, because it could change tomorrow. I'm just saying that's personally is my mission in life, is regardless of what career I may be in at this stage in life, my mission is that I will always help in some form or capacity. And I personally think that we're all here to do something like that. Rise one another up.
And at the end of the day, I think you were put here for me. So
no.
Nobody else, just for me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great show. We're coming up on the 25-minute mark. We are going to take this out of here, as always, with a final word of the day. I hope, it's my sincere hope, that somebody will gain something amazing out of today's show. If you're lost and you're stuck and not really knowing who you are, go back, rewatch this stuff, and pick out some of those pieces and check out some of the other resources that are available. Babe, final words of the day. Get them.
Just remember that your education and your career does not define who you are as a person, and your net worth does not define your self worth. Just remember that is that no matter what your education level is, no matter what income you're making, doesn't mean that you're any better or worse than anybody else. We're all equal.
Facts. And I would say take a day and just Claire taught me this a while ago, and it's a wonderful thing. If you had all the money in the world and all the time to do whatever you wanted to do, money and time are not an issue. What would you do with your life? What are you doing with your life? Where are you? Where do you live? What is your occupation? How do you spend your days when you have $10 million in the bank and time is of no consequence? That will help you figure out your passion in life, what means the most to you, and who you really are. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you to my baby. As always, she sacrifices her time every day to do this. We don't do this for the recognition because you see, we have like 1 or 2 people that watch. We don't do it for the view. We do this because at some point, this will be here. And our goal is to leave as much as we can on this earth for people to better themselves if they need it. It's like weights. We're like emotional, mental weights. Like she said, we will bring it here. It's here for you to use. Pick up what you can and leave what you can't. And may it serve somebody in a better capacity, better purpose. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to my baby. And we'll see you guys back here tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Mastermind. Have a great day, guys.